Hello, my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I am the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Woman of Inspiration Awards, and this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast. Today, my guest is Dr. Lisa Studnicki Hunt. She is the co-founder and CEO of Chemtech International Limited, which is an organization providing contract research, custom synthesis, and early stage drug discovery to pharmaceutical, biotech, and materials-based companies worldwide. Chemtech is located in Oakville, Ontario, and currently employs a team of highly skilled synthetic chemists across the globe. Now, Lisa, we had a conversation in the green room, and I want to share your list of accomplishments, and then we're going to dive into your career path because it's truly remarkable. And I know that we had a note about your definition of a woman of inspiration as being a lifelong learner, and that you truly are. So if I can just take a moment to share a little bit about your accomplishments, then we'll dive back in, and I'd love to hear how that all began. So Lisa has obtained her degree in natural sciences, in science. She has a Bachelor of Science with a minor in French, Master of Science in Chemistry. She also has a PhD in organic polymer chemistry, which you studied in Germany. So you've also traveled a lot during this time to attain all of your education. And then you switch gears, and you've also got a really strong business side. So professional sales designation with the Canadian Professional Sales Association. You also completed the E2 Entrepreneur's Edge with the Wilfrid Laurier University. And then you were a member of the Young Entrepreneurs Delegation at the G20 in 2010. You must have been in school the whole time, because not only that, you also attended Harvard Business School in 2015 to study entrepreneurship. So then as well, marketing innovation was a course that you completed at MIT School of Management. You're also fluent in not one, not two, but three languages, which are English, French, and German. So Lisa, it's amazing what you've accomplished, and we're so excited to have this opportunity to dive into your career path and your journey, because you truly are a woman of inspiration.
Well, thank you very much. That's a very kind introduction.
So let me ask you, I've just laid out a roadmap that, I mean, you've been a lifelong learner. But what I'd love to know is where this journey began. Did you always have a clear, vivid plan for your career path and where you're heading, even to, to the point where you are now, where you've launched, a company in a very underrepresented industry represented by women?
I certainly did not have a clear idea of what things would look like. What I did know, and actually, I recently heard a quote from Diane von Furstenberg, the fashion designer, and I think she really nails it. She says, I paraphrase this, I didn't know really what I wanted to do, but I knew the woman I wanted to be. So what that meant for me, that's really it, because I knew I wanted to be independent, financially and otherwise. And I knew I wanted to do something meaningful. I knew I had the energy to do it, the capacity to do it. And I knew I wanted to decide what my days looked like, so I really wanted to feel like I was spending my time doing something of value, giving back. But I didn't really know, I loved athletics. I loved playing sports. I loved music. I loved oil painting. I loved economics. I didn't know where it was going to go, but I knew, the more school and the more exposure I could get, odds are I would find something in there that I thought was really great. So I put myself in a position where I could at least see a lot of what was out there. And, 25, 30 years ago, there was a lot less out there than there is now. I think, it's a very different world, but I really had the opportunity to see a lot, and I didn't feel any hesitation in terms of picking what I thought would be best for me. I knew if I worked at whatever I picked, I could do something. So that's where I started. I certainly did not have a crystal ball and what I thought I would be when I was younger.
So let me ask you this though. When do you think, so we actually have a lot of our young women, which are future leaders
Mhm.
in the Universal Women's Network, and we have the awards for the Young Excellence Award for our, 12 to 17-year-olds. What time did you start making those decisions? How old were you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it came in university. I think it came at the bachelor's level. Honestly, there's a lot of focus these days on picking what you want to do and what you want to be really early on.
Mhm.
I would caution just against that, because there are things that you see once you get to the university level that you have not seen before. It was very interesting. So, I had a great experience. So I'm from Montreal. I had a great experience going to siege up there. I went to John Abbott College, fantastic place. As a result of that and being exposed to science, I jumped into second year at University of Toronto in the science program. And there you're still doing things, you're doing your electives, you're doing economics, you're doing anthropology. So you start to see what's interesting to you that you'd never had exposure to before. And that's when I started to see some chemistry courses there that were fascinating to me. I loved inorganic chemistry, things like that. And you also see the courses that challenge you. So for someone like me, being challenged was like, that was it, right? And like, I want to do something here to be better at this, maybe to be the best at this. So that gives you kind of a push, maybe in a different direction than you expected. And it's so second year, third year, and the undergraduate was really where I started to see things taking shape a little more.
So let me ask you, when you were sitting in those classrooms, women in sciences and STEM are underrepresented.
Mhm.
So did you see that? How did that affect you when you were going through school? Did you pay
Yeah.
attention to it, or you just clear focus straight ahead?
So that's a great question. So I think certainly that's an accurate statement. I may have been at certain points the only female in some of these courses. I noticed it, but it didn't impact me because where I had grown up. So I grew up in a small town called Baie-D'Urfé, just outside of Montreal. Uh, you know, I had an environment. I was lucky enough to be in an environment where differences were celebrated, and there was a real equality in terms of people didn't have like the self-imposed barriers of, maybe you're only suited to this, maybe you're only suited to that. All of my friends were trying to do something in some field. And I guess the town, the teachers, the whatever, politicians, everybody had a very progressive attitude in terms of, if you're good at what you do and if you're the best at what you do, you're going to succeed. So I didn't have that feeling of, I might not make it because I'm the only one here. I really felt like it's an equal playing field. And we embraced everybody's differences in these classes. Certainly not everybody was from the same place. We're from all over the world at that point. Once you get to university, I mean, it's a wonderful, diverse crowd. And I think we all just supported each other in that way. And really it helped us as the team thinned out, over the years, you get less and less in these classes. And we really supported each other. So our differences were really important to strengthen us as a team.
I love that you're saying this, because I think that we need to draw more light to that, because there are some really wonderful things that we can celebrate where women are, it's not an us versus them, but there is no competition, and it's the embracing of bringing more women into these roles. And just really the common denominator is, do what you love what you do, and do it well.
You said it. I was very fortunate as well. My parents were wonderfully encouraging. It still to this day are. And it was always, pick what you want to do. It doesn't matter what it's going to be, but as long as you're the best at it, you're going to be happy in your life. You're going to feel like you're productive. You're going to feel validated. And you're going to be able to do something meaningful. So I have always had that message in the back of my head. And science is a great field to work in, because ultimately, whatever language you speak, wherever you're from, if you're a good scientist, the work speaks for itself. So that was, I think, very motivating for me. It's as long as you work hard and you excel in your field, I think you've got a fair shot at being at the top.
So what I find interesting to your story, Lisa, is that you have this, you have this, amazing experience and background of knowledge to support your sciences. But then you've also jumped in to learn about the business world. And so did you, as you were sort of finishing off your schooling, did you have this mindset that you knew that you wanted to, co-found a business, that you wanted to take that knowledge, and then now start a business? Did you have that insight?
Yeah, that's a great question. Looking back, it's funny. You put pieces together that you don't at the time you're going through it. But so I think I recognized I certainly was not the best chemist, and I was not the smartest. Sure, I was in the top 5, let's say, but I wasn't the best. I had other skills that perhaps people didn't have, who were doing the same thing I was doing. So when I grew up, my father, he was always, president, vice president of sales and marketing, whatever, different organizations, not in science, but, in different fields. And so that environment, it was very natural to me. I saw how you interact with people. I saw always the way he tried to lead teams of salespeople, marketing people, how he tried to unify them and find solutions to problems in their industries. And that's what I like to do. I found that I could communicate, what I was doing scientifically, why it was relevant, and really what's the meaning behind it. So probably when I decided to do my master's, that was the time actually when I met my business partner, who we had the same vision. We wanted to solve problems, and we knew we were good at chemistry. He's the best chemist I think I've ever seen, but there was a combination of skill sets there that we felt, okay, you know what, we can articulate this, we can put this down into a business. We didn't have any money. So that's when you get into the realization, okay, what is this really going to take, right? There are barriers there, but we were both driven at that time, incredibly driven to say, you know what, we have skill sets. How can we put this together to make something tangible, to do something that's going to help people in our industry? That's really where it started.
And so you started in 2002.
Yes.
So you're coming up, this was a milestone year for you,
Yes.
right? I mean, in business, that's 20 years.
Yes, this is incredible. I don't know where the time has gone. I know people say that, but I really mean it. It's been amazing. It's an amazing journey. So actually this year, we have just partnered actually with a private equity firm from Cleveland, Ohio called Edgewater Capital Partners. Great team have come on board. They believed in the vision of GL Chemtech that my business partner and I had. And they're now supporting us to grow much faster, much more aggressively, and make a bigger impact. Right now in the world, there's a lot of uncertainty. People would like to do their drug discovery and drug production closer to home in North America. What a great opportunity we have now to make a big impact. So it's very exciting. Lots of great years to come, I think.
What's so interesting is, congratulations first off on this massive milestone. I believe that we need to celebrate those successes. And, this is the conversation that we're also having, where we want to see the leaders who are actually bringing their visions to reality, like yourself, and women in leadership roles. So important. So I'm celebrating this with you. But I want to say, did it seem like they say that, it takes like that 20 years to be an overnight success?
Yeah, you got it. It is something that, when I speak to other young people who are starting in business or whatever it is, whatever the field is, they're starting something. And I think the best advice there is it's a marathon, right? So just be prepared. Overnight successes, like you said, they're not overnight successes. You don't see what's in the background. But if in the industry that we're in, pharmaceuticals and biotech, it's a very mature industry. Obviously, people are very experienced professionals. So you've got to take a lot of time just to prove, that you have the clout to be doing what you need to be doing. And so, after 10 years, it's like, oh, they're still around. Great. Let's give them an opportunity. After 20 years, well, it seems to be like they know what they're doing, right? But it's a long journey. You need to be patient. It's not always going to be easy. It's a long-term commitment, but you don't realize who's paying attention to you sometimes. When we were approached by this firm, we didn't know, how they'd heard of us or what they've heard, but they came to the table, and this is a testament to the team. I mean, my team is the best team. They have done an extraordinary job of constantly producing amazing results for our customers, who are all working on incredibly important R&D programs, right? So what we do is we essentially say, this program can proceed or it can't. And we always tell everyone, like, you are contributing in a huge way, and you may not feel it because, we're a smaller organization, say 30,000 square feet out in Oakville, but what you're doing is it's a global impact, and building that brand over the years, people take notice, and then you're given opportunities that you never think you will actually be given. So there's a lot out there if you just persist and you just keep working hard to your high standards, right? It will eventually come.
You said something really interesting that I want to go back to. They approached you.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of times everybody wants to, it's just like reach out and show what we have and draw in the investors.
Yes.
Was there ever a time that you were out there, wanting to scale and grow, where you're out there knocking on the doors? Do you remember those times? So I guess what I'd like to ask is, what kept you motivated through that time as you're going through your proving years of, establishing your footprint, building your foundation, in that 10-year time, when you're probably knocking on doors, they weren't coming to you yet.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. That's a great question. I think we're a little bit different in a sense that when my business partner and I set our original strategy, I think we made a 100-year plan. We said, we want this to be a lifetime commitment to science, to building something really exciting in Canada where people would be able to do R&D, get exposure to techniques and projects that they may not otherwise see in other kind of more structured organizations. Being a contract research organization, you see something different all the time. It's always challenging. You learn, different chemistries, new chemistries to try to overcome the problems. But you have to be realistic when you set your expectations. So, we knew after the first 10 years, we were self-funded. So, first you have to get to the point where you can build an organization where you have sufficient equipment, instrumentation, space, a safe working lab. Then you have to build a team over time of people who know that you're committed to them and they're committed to you. It's a long process. So, we took every step very carefully. And probably at year 15, you start to get more opportunities. And then a few years ago, which is really interesting, we got a call from Industry Canada, and we actually ended up doing 12 tons of material for the federal government during the COVID pandemic, where, there were not a lot of chemical manufacturers in Canada anymore. And they reached out to us and said, hey, listen, can you do this for us in pretty short timing? I think that put us on the map. When we saw Justin Trudeau and everybody giving press conferences about us, we thought, holy cow, okay, now we have a big responsibility to the country, right? Now we have to make sure that we get this done right. But all of that, I think, brought attention to us, which is something that would never have happened in short order, right? And so it just establishes more credibility for your organization, that you can be trusted, you could be counted on to do bigger and bigger things. And I think that's what attracted people to us. And we were not planning to do anything, because we were doing very well financially. We thought that the business was coming along quite nicely, But there is a time when you have to realize that you can't do everything on your own. And we were open to learning from people who were experts in their field, who could bring things to the table that we didn't have, new foundations, new systems, new ways of looking at things. This was a huge opportunity that we had to wrap our heads around. It took us probably 6 months. But they, continued to persist and say, we really feel like this is something meaningful. And finally we committed to it. And it's definitely the best thing, I think, for GL Chemtech now, our strategic vision, what the future looks like. It's amazing. It's amazing to be part of this ride now. So now I'm actually currently now the chief commercial officer. I'm kind of moving around, and that's great because I'm super excited. Just brought on a VP of business development. We're growing, doing things that certainly I didn't think that I'd be doing at this point in time. So be open to opportunities, but also be very realistic in terms of timeframes. Successful foundational businesses, they don't necessarily happen overnight.
Well said. That's a great reminder, because everybody wants the fast track, right? And
yes.
Listening to your stories and, your career path, and then, the steps that you've taken in that 100-year business plan is certainly, like everybody says, 5 years, no, skinny back to 3. And then you can pivot, because what if there's global pandemics happening or something like that?
Right.
And so, but I love your 100 years, because like you're marking your stake in the ground that we are here to stay.
Right.
It might be a different, you're going to grow and continue to grow. There's always going to be a new challenge or a problem you're going to solve.
Yes.
So that's pretty inspiring as far as I'm concerned. I haven't heard of that 100-year, but I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to quote you for sure.
Okay.
So what I have to ask you is, as a female leader, what were some of those barriers for you? Scaling, growing your business.
Well, so probably, one barrier that would be common to both men and women was a financial barrier, because, we came into it as young people, really, who didn't have a ton of money, right? And before you go out and make promises to banks or to other financiers, you better be pretty sure that you know when you're going to be able to pay them back. We did not know that. We couldn't even estimate, is it going to be 10 years? Is it going to be 15 years? So not wanting to have that kind of pressure, because we had no clear vision for how quick it would take to grow the business. We self-funded. We went the hard way. So financial barrier was real, certainly. Another barrier, I think, for me was, when I got into the industry, I was 22. It's a very mature industry, right? And I'm calling the senior R&D directors at all of these pharmaceutical companies and trying to tell them that I can help them do their job better. It was challenging. I'll say, when I first started, that's what pushed me to do my PhD. Having the PhD gave me the ability to secure meetings and secure opportunities that I really would not have been able to secure otherwise. You're kind of on the same level at that point with the people who you're hoping to work with. So at that point I went to Germany. I did a PhD. It was a tough degree. It's fantastic. I mean, it was an amazing experience. I definitely recommend if people can kind of switch up what they're doing and maybe try doing studies at another university. I broke between my master's, after my master's, before my PhD, and I went somewhere else. It's an amazing experience. You learn a little bit more about how other people work, how other people see things, how other people value things. Gave me a lot of insight into, what the pharmaceutical world really was. At that time, mentoring wasn't really a thing like it is today, right? It was kind of, you're very isolated, 20 whatever years ago. And so I figured out quickly that having the degree would be very advantageous to me in this line of business. I recommend that to everybody that I speak with. But it's certainly, now when you go and you try to bring a new customer to the table. You can speak to their drug, their synthesis directly. You can, sit down and hash out ideas. There's a lot of value to that because you're able to really develop great relationships with people a lot quicker than perhaps other people would. You're speaking the same language. So that was a big barrier. And I think, when you make 50,000 phone calls and you get 5 back, it's it's a good welcome into your industry.
And I hear this so many times over. It's just like, you just got to persevere through those times. And, if you're clear in your vision, and where you're going, you will succeed. And so I guess that's my next question for you. What is your definition of success?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I believe in what you're saying. If you come back to the vision, even on the bad days, there's going to be a lot of bad days. Well, not great days. Let's put it that way. You're feeling a little down, but if you persist long enough, you will experience what people call luck. Because for me, luck is a combination of persistence and hard work. And if you're around long enough, those breaks are going to come. So don't get discouraged. If I define success, first of all, I think we have to be very contented every day when we can get out of bed. We're not in a hospital and we're not in a war zone. I think we have to put things in perspective. So the world is challenged right now. And so if you have the chance to wake up and do something that you want to do, it's you're in a good spot. You're in a good spot. So I think really success is taking advantage of all the opportunities that you have, being really thankful for your health and the fact that you can now do something meaningful. I've always thought that, giving back on all levels, you give back to your immediate family, you give back to your network, you give back to your city, you give back to your country, you give back to the world. Everybody can do something, and we all have different skill sets that are all valuable. But, if you think about just being able to benefit from, especially, being in Canada right now, you've got a wonderful education system. We have wonderful people in this country. And I think we have outstanding values, building on that and trying to do something meaningful. That for me is the ultimate success.
Beautiful. And, I know that during our conversation, you've referenced that there's, your co-founder and, your support network. And I truly do believe that success comes with surrounding yourself with people that dream big, that, are driven, but also knows the successes and the failures as well. So what I would love to know is, who is your support network? What is, we talk about support hers, our allies and our champions. You have a co-founder, which is a male. So I'd love you to share a little bit about, how important having that support system is and who are your supporters.
Absolutely. The interesting thing is that I think the more and more you do, and the more you kind of move up in your roles, the smaller your circle is going to become. So you need to make sure that people around you are people who are rooting for you. They're positive people. They're very like-minded people. When I grew up, I was an only child, so I started with a support network of my parents and my grandparents. I can't tell you how thankful I am for them and their support. Meeting my business partner when I was in my early 20s, Dr. Jamil Al-Hakimi. He had just come to Canada, actually, with his family from the Middle East and formerly from Germany. Unbelievable story. But right away, we recognized the commonality that we both wanted to work really hard to be able to contribute something in our fields. He's been a great supporter throughout the years. When you're going into business, and if you're going to pick a business partner or business partners, that's one of the most important decisions you're ever going to make. You have to be very transparent and really, you're going to hash things out with these people on a daily basis. It's and maybe spend more time with them than you do with anyone else. So critical decision to make sure you get somebody who has core values that you have and who's going to approach difficult situations in the same way that you think you're going to approach them, because they'll come. And then 6, 7 years ago, I met my husband, Dr. Kevin Hunt, who is just an unbelievable person. I, respect him on every level. I got married rather late in my life and didn't really know that I would do so, but he's such a great person. I'm really enriched by this partnership and this marriage. He's also the CSO of a biotech company, so we can speak the same languages. But that's important as well, because over the years I found, a great sacrifice is, of course, at the personal level. It is, and I'm sure this is very individual to each person who's making this journey. But for me, it was very difficult to have a personal life and a professional life, because your professional life tends to be everything that you are and everything that you do. And that's just the way it is. And so you have to know kind of how much can you manage, what's your level of, time management. It's like, can I keep myself healthy, and can I do this, and can I do this? And it speaks back to one of the questions we talked about earlier, which is like, can you have it all? And be careful to define what having it all means, because based on your particular path, it may not look the same as someone else's path. You may have to trim out a few things or focus more on something else, but really try to give yourself some grace that, not everybody can do everything all the time. So when the time is right, things will happen for you. I believe if it's meant to be, they will happen. That's what I've seen in my life. But yes, be mindful of your time, because it's precious. It's very valuable that you use every day, to its maximum, and that you really have good people who are going to have your back around you.
So many nuggets of wisdom, like just talking woman to woman here and building a business, and then that personal time for relationships. It's really hard to have that all, right? Especially when you want to. So anyways, it's, more conversations around that, because in order to build and grow, you have to be laser focused to do that. And there's only 12 hours and 24 hours in a day, and somewhere you got to sleep, right?
Yes.
So
hopefully,
right. So having that balance and knowing the priority right now might be different than the priority tomorrow, and for sure having that right partner. So it sounds like your husband is a great support her, and I'm sure he's extremely proud of everything that you continue to do. So so excited to see that whole plan come out for you, and can't wait to see the journey ahead. But I would like to know, because we're all like, you're a very busy woman, what's one self-care? Like if we talk about something that you do for yourself, like without a doubt that you're like, this is my staple, this keeps me focused, no matter how busy I get personally or professionally, this is my thing that I do without a doubt every single day. What would that be?
Well, my self-focus area is results from many, many years of no self-care. So when I was 25, I ended up breaking my back, and it was as a result of sports injuries over the years, working crazy hours, and finally, you know what, something is going to give if you don't look after yourself. So my L4, L5 gave, and my body was not in good shape. I got to the point where I was actually critical. I had a critical back surgery where I was going to come out either fixed or in a wheelchair. And that was a life-changing moment. So what does that do? Well, it makes you think about your limitations and yourself a little bit more. I make sure I do things like, a lot of walking, a lot of Pilates, like 3 times a week. If I don't do it, I feel that old, back pain starting to come up. But I tell you, be very careful. We do a lot of these things when we're young. We work really hard. We think we can work 24 hours a day, which you may be able to do, but you can't do it for very long. So I learned that very early on in my life, and just making sure that physically you are solid. You have to eat well, you have to sleep well. All of these things are interconnected. I tell you, the more time goes by, the more important that is.
Well, I can totally relate about that. And let's not even talk about the hours put in over during the pandemic.
Oh,
It's like, let's restart now. Like 2022 was the restart button really for getting some sort of normal routine back in and so yeah, it is super important. The sleep, even just the water, and exercise for sure.
absolutely. And we all have a kind of our weaknesses in our bodies, our strengths and weaknesses, and just pay attention to them, because over time they don't go away. They start to be a little louder in your ear. But yeah, I won't miss Pilates class. So
that's you can't now, because you have 100-year business plan. So you've got to see that thing through.
That's right.
Amazing. I have just a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
And we talk about, we've been talking about your career path and your journey, and you've certainly had a lot of successes. And I'm such a big advocate for celebrating women. But why, Lisa, do you believe it's so important to celebrate the successes of and the accomplishments of women?
Well, I don't think that every woman has parents like I did that are telling them that when you grow up, you can be whatever you want to be and you can do whatever you want to do. I don't think we live in an equal world, an equal playing field. And I think young women need to hear, you can do whatever you want to do. The limitations on you are self-imposed. It doesn't mean you're going to have an easy time achieving it, or it doesn't mean somebody else might have an easier time achieving it, but you can do it as long as you persist. And I just don't think everybody gets that message. So that's why I feel like these types of organizations such as you have, which is it's absolutely wonderful. I think it's really important to see what's possible and what they may not be exposed to on a daily basis.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that. And I also really am super, super honored that we can have you in our circle, because leaders and sharing your experiences, that's how we grow. When we know that we're not alone, and that if she can do it, so can we. And it sounds really simple, and sometimes it's very understated, but it's so incredibly powerful.
Yes.
I'm just energized, even just listening to everything that you've got going on, and really excited about that journey ahead for you. You're a woman of inspiration. My second last question that I ask all of our guests are, what is the definition of a woman of inspiration to you, Lisa?
Yeah, that was an interesting question. Actually, when you floated that by me, I think a woman of inspiration for me is a woman who is very self-aware. Somebody who knows their strengths and weaknesses, someone who can tell it like it is, and someone who wholeheartedly believes in what she's doing. So regardless of the profession, regardless of, what your education is, what your background is, if you believe that what you're doing every day is meaningful, I think that's very, very inspiring. And I think people will draw some very, very good energy from people like that. And for me, the most important thing is, as we're all very talented and we make contributions, a woman who's ready to help other people is very inspiring to me. That's not everybody is as lucky as we are, and giving a helping hand to anyone who needs it, that for me is very inspiring when I see people do that.
Beautiful. And I think, I can think of all the women that are listening, and even all the men that are listening, and passing this off to their colleague or their wife or their daughter. There's so many really great nuggets of wisdom that you shared. So I thank you for being so authentic and sharing your career path and your journey and your stories with us, because I do really believe that that really helps empower another woman to succeed as well. So thank you so much for this amazing conversation, and we look forward to having you part of the Changemaker book, because you are truly a change maker. And before we end, I mean, are there any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners today, Lisa?
Oh, goodness. I'm honored to be included in this. You see a lot here that you think can be inspirational and motivational to other people. I hope that's the case. I would love to be able to connect with anyone who wants to connect with me, and I can, whatever I can bring to the table to help somebody else, I certainly will. Words of inspiration. I would buy the book Think and Grow Rich, and I would read it 100 times. Why? Not necessarily because you want to be rich, but because it lays out a lot of principles in there that I think are going to help you do very meaningful things in your life. It's going to inspire you to help other people, to do your best every day, to be confident in what you do and your abilities. And I would say anybody out there who has a dream to do their own organization, to do their own company, the time is now to do it. Don't ever wait for the conditions to be just right. Just go for it. Just start gathering the information you need to get started, and things will happen for you along the way. And you will always just continue to build momentum, make the best decisions that you can with the information at hand as you go, and you will achieve something great. So just know that, everybody here can do something amazing, and your definition of amazing will be different from the next person. But I really believe in that everyone here has something to contribute and bring to the table. So that's what I would leave you with today.
Great words of wisdom. And I'm going to share something that you shared with me when I had sent the note out to you. Said, you had said a quote, the person who never gives up can't be beat. Work hard, be humble, and do good. And I think that kind of sums up everything that you lead by example, Lisa. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you. And of course, for anybody wanting to connect with Lisa, learn more about I want to make sure I get this correct here, about all the great work for GL Chemtech.
You got it.
Learn more about the company, learn more about the industry, get involved, whatever you need to do, or connect up with Lisa. How can they do that?
Oh, I would be very happy to connect with them. So, my profile on LinkedIn there, I think, has my full email and contact phone number. Please feel free to give me a call. I'd love to learn about, you and what the journey is, and certainly offer any insights I can into making things easier. So
beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. And I hope all of our listeners will, dive in, connect up with Lisa, but also share the podcast. That is the best thing that we can do, is share the wealth of knowledge that our leaders are sharing. So thank you again so much, Lisa. Have a wonderful day. And thank you for being on the Woman of Inspiration podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to participate. I appreciate it.